to order the meeting for the Addison County Economic Development Corp. Monthly board meeting.
Recording.
Yeah.
For October 17th, 2024. We'll start off with introductions. I'm Jason LaRock, board chair. We're on the table here, then let you guys randomly introduce yourselves.
I'm Richard McCurr, Middleburg.
Rennie Perry, City of Virgins.
Fred Kenny, executive director.
Camille Lyons, assistant to the director.
Nicole McTavish, Hannaford Career Center.
Dave Castle, Mechanical Advantage.
Chris LaPierre, the National Bank of Middlebury.
Mark Foster, Middlebury, Foster Brothers Farm, Vermont Natural Ag Products.
Gina Laro, Middlebury.
Joe
Joseph.
Andriano, Joe Andriano from Addison County, Chair of Addison County Regional Development Corporation.
Chris, did you go? Yeah, Bob doesn't have any audio, so Bob Ortmeyer is on. Well, I guess if you need to say something, use the chat function.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Next order of business is to approve the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
I don't have any.
Take a motion to approve the agenda as it is.
So moved.
All right, it's been moved by Rennie, seconded by
Seconded.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion's carried. We have an agenda. September board meeting minutes. Those were in the packet. Do we have a motion to approve those? It's been moved by Rennie. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. It's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand or
Aye.
aye. Anyone opposed? Aye. Motion's carried.
Bob says he can hear now. Can we hear you, Bob? Unmute?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Problem.
Excellent. I'll turn it over to you, Fred, for the staff activities report.
Okay, you had a report in the marketing communications report in your packet, but I'll give a few highlights. September is a quarterly report month, so we filed all our quarterly reports with USDA and ACCD and filed all our invoices. ACCD invoice has been paid as of yesterday. I included the ACCD quarterly report in your packet just for your information. We don't need to do anything with that. I just give you that every quarter so you can see what we're reporting to ACCD. The USDA Rural Development funded food hub feasibility study for their expansion was completed and submitted, and the final invoice has been submitted. They haven't sent us our check yet, but should get it any day. So that the Acorn will decide how they want to distribute that report and use it. But we did submit it to USDA. We also filed by the end of last quarter a new IRP application. So that's an application for a new loan from USDA, the intermediary lending program that capitalizes our revolving loan fund. Camille did a lot of most of the work on that. Thank you, Camille. We got that in the end of the quarter, but the local office is still looking it over to see if we need to submit anything else, and then they'll submit it to the national office for consideration. Did not have any new loan activity, new loans activity in September. Worked on some of the existing loans, and hopefully you saw my email. There's a ribbon cutting for the Addison County Alignment and Repair grand opening up in New Haven on Monday morning at 7:45. They're gonna open up on Monday, which is great. They did really fast work on that facility. So that's an expansion of County Tire here in Middlebury. A facility to handle, you know, all the new adjustments to the new sensors that are on the new cars. Couple of closures, probably you've heard about most of them. Taylor Rental here in town is closed. Paris Supply is closed. Those were right next door to each other too. The other one is Buxton Store in Orwell is closing. There is some good news, however. Agricola Meats, who we've worked with for several years, is expanding. They're busting at the seams at the place they're in on Exchange Street, and they're going to take over the what used to be the Vermont Food Collaborative at the corner of Campground Road and Route 7 in New Haven. They're going to take over that building, the one with the log cabin right next to it. It's a great facility for them. It's all set up for processing food. And she needs more space because she's gotten new markets and growing. So that's some good news. Also on the good news front, the Travel and Leisure put out their top 10 small towns list yesterday, and Addison County got 3 of the 10 towns that were in there. So Bristol, Vergennes, and Middlebury were all featured as best small towns, which is interesting because they're the biggest towns in Addison County, but small towns in Vermont, you know, was the title. So according to the people that live there, I think it's that. But anyway, that's great. We got 3 out of the 10 in Addison County. I think that's a pretty widely read periodical online. Audit is pretty much done. He's doing a couple of updates of changes to it right now, and that'll go to the executive committee at the November meeting for review. Yeah, so that's all I have. Any questions on the staff activity report or the marketing and communications report?
Thank you, Fred. All right, at this point, we have an item on our agenda for citizen comments, opportunity to raise or address issues not otherwise included in this agenda. I don't see that we have any non-board members with us today. But does anyone have anything they want to report out that have been brought to them by citizens? Not really. We'll move on to staffing update. Back to you, Fred.
Okay, so the big project I worked on in September and into October, of course, was hiring a new office operations manager. So I used Addison Independent, the Brandon Reporter, Front Porch Forum, and the state Jobs Link site. We had 5 candidates. One of them backed out towards the end. One got another job. So 2 out of the remaining 3 were viable candidates, were good candidates, and so I hired one of them. Her name is Nicole Bashand Bartlett. She's from Bristol, and she found out about the job through Front Porch Forum. I'm glad I used that. She actually was in here yesterday for, you know, onboarding documentation and a little bit of orientation, but she starts officially on Monday, the 21st.
Excellent.
She'll be at the next board meeting. Come on.
It was just Joe.
Next item is the quarterly financial report. It was in your packet. Nothing out of the ordinary on there that I could see. All the revenues coming in almost as projected, and expenses are pretty much as expected and projected. You know, anything that's a little bit off is just because of timing. You know, it didn't get paid, or we didn't get the revenue, didn't come in by, you know, September 30th, and I had projected it would. So we're on track, in fact, a little bit ahead on revenues, and pretty much on track for expenses. And so have a positive net revenue at this point. I don't know if you saw anything out of the unusual, or if anybody has any questions on the quarterly financial report. All right, moving right along. Related to that is an update of the budget. I provided that in your packet with an update to the only change I made to it is in the payroll section. So right now it reflects salary for me and a new executive director for 3 months. Because we're hoping to have a 3-month overlap. And Camille for 9 months, because she just started last month, and Nicole for 8 months, because she starts this month. So that I had to update that to reflect, now that we know, 3 out of the 4 people's salaries. But I assume a salary for the new executive director overlapping the 3 months with me. So that's what the yellow highlight is, change to the wages and salaries, and then the corresponding taxes and IRA contributions. So it's still an estimate, but it's based on what we know right now about the salaries and wages through the end of June. So the net is a loss at this point, but not as big as we were projecting when you approved the budget in June. And that may change with, if we get new grants. There is a grant we're working on that will assist the thermal energy network that's being worked on in Middlebury. The Vermont Council on Rural Development has a grant opportunity for renewable energy projects that help facilitate community involvement, and that's what this project is doing. So we're applying to that, and we would administer that grant and get a little bit of income from it, not a lot, but that's the only one I know about right now. We'll probably do another rural development, USDA rural development, rural business development grant in the spring. That's what the feasibility study was. Looking for a project to do with that, and we'd apply for that in the spring. Any questions on the updated budget? Yep.
It's good to see that we're making headway on that deficit.
Yeah. It goes up and down.
Yep, I understand.
As we make changes. Then the other thing in your packet was the updated opus. One-page operating strategy. So I've updated that to reflect the 3-4 month periods to implement the initiatives that you decided on in, I think it was August, when we made adjustments to this because of the loss of staff. And then I've indicated what's been accomplished during the first 4 months, July through October. October's not totally over yet, but pretty close. So I went ahead and updated the opus for what's been accomplished. And as you can see with all the red check marks, we're doing pretty well.
It looks like you've done everything.
We've pretty much got everything done. We're not stretching ourselves because we've been catching up, getting staff on board. So the yellow things in the initiatives are really kind of on hold for now. And we're not undertaking them till we get fully staffed. But then their big project is going to be bringing on the new executive director. So probably some of those things will stay on hold. So a lot of those got done. We got finished up all the FY25 BGS grants. All of them are done, projects are done, and their funds went out to them. And we submitted new grants for next year. There were only 3 this year. Kind of surprising. We started with like 10 potential, but it ended up only 3 getting submitted. We should hear from BGS sometime this month about who's getting funding. We did close 1 loan, that one for Addison County alignment and repair. Handled the disaster recovery information, getting that out to people, put a new page on our website for that. Did several letters of support, got the regional priority project list going. We've got several projects that'll be on that again this year. Finished the feasibility study, submitted the IRP application. On workforce development, we did got this class going for the Collins soldering at the Career Center. That's starting up this fall. So that's out there and publicized, and we got a great deal on members of the chamber and ACEDC, $100 for a soldering class. So if anybody's interested in that, let me know, or if you have employees that would be interested in taking it. And then, of course, the hiring of the new office operations manager, following up with potential new members, and we did get a couple new members so far. And did the mixer, did the audit, planning the annual meeting for the 14th. Yeah, so got quite a bit accomplished. Any questions on the Opus update? All right, I think I skipped something.
You skipped the
Annual meeting notice.
annual meeting notice.
So the draft for the annual meeting, the notice to go out to members is in your packet. That technically by our bylaws requires the board to approve it before we send it out, so.
I'll make a motion to approve. Sorry, Fred.
Okay, no problem.
Second.
Gina and Rennie,
All right, any discussion? So what I saw in there was the program.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And that's
That's Victor
we
as
don't
well.
actually send out we don't do a warning.
yeah, it's an email warning.
Okay.
With that attached,
Okay,
so because that has the slate of board members in it.
are we required to post that in a public forum as well, as far as? Or is it-
Yeah, we'll post it just like we do these meetings.
All right, if I'm not hearing any other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I,
Right. All those opposed? All right, motion's carried.
Dave, by voting aye, I assume you're good with continuing on the board? Yeah, great. Thought so. All right. That'll go out today to all the members, and we'll start getting registrations. If board members would go ahead and register, that'll help keep track of who's going to be there and get a head count for food and everything.
All right, so
We've got lots of time for a board roundtable.
we do. Who wants to go first?
Joe, you want to give us an update on what you're working on with the Buxton store?
Yeah, we'd be happy to. As some folks may have seen in the Ask Independent last week, and as Fred mentioned a short time ago, the Buxtons unfortunately had to close Buxton store. I think that the reasons are nothing that would be surprising to anyone. Just sort of the general economic climate, difficulty in finding help. I think that it's a challenge to run these sorts of general stores in Vermont or probably anywhere at this point, unfortunately. So the Buxtons announced via Facebook at the beginning of the month that they would be closing at the end of the month. And I've known Andy and Mary for some years now. And ultimately, I reached out to them. And is my connection having a problem? Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Yep,
Yeah,
I
we
think
can
it just did a thing. Anyway, I approached the Buxtons about an idea of us trying to form a nonprofit to purchase the store from them, and to try to basically do what so many other towns have done. I think of Albany, Vermont, as probably. Or East Calais also did this. But I often think of the Albany model, where they purchased using preservation trust and other grants, purchased the building, helped fix it up and everything like that, and then tried to find someone to come in and take over what was going on there. And so, one thing that we really emphasized is that we want it to be a community-led process of the community deciding, if we're successful in this purchase, of what will go in that space. It's become pretty abundantly clear over the past 2 weeks that that would be a store. And that's why I sort of mentioned the Albany model, because they fixed up their old general store that had gone out of business. And then they brought a third party in, the owners of the Craftsberry store. So where things sort of stand with us right now is that we are trying to essentially buy time, because the Buxtons really, really kept the business going as long as they humanly possibly could. And so the challenge that they face is one of having bills to pay. And obviously, as you all know, any sort of grant process can be rather long. And so we started a GoFundMe, and we are basically going to use that money for the GoFundMe in order to buy however many months. Once we sort of crunch the numbers of how much money we have and their bills, we did a rough estimate on the GoFundMe of around $10,000 a month to keep the building going without a business in there. And so that's sort of where we stand right now. So we are having a little get together with supporters tonight to find out sort of in what way people will be interested in participating in this project. We're reaching out to a variety of different grant makers and things like that, with the hopes that one of them finds it interesting, and we're able to be successful in getting a grant to purchase the store. But it truthfully is an uphill battle, because we have to deal with the realities of the budgets that the Buxtons have, and what that time sort of leaves us to.
Yeah, and I would say that while each of those closures had, individual reasons for closing, like, competition, all across all three, there definitely staffing issues were a huge driving factor of trying to get help. And they're all kind of they're all family run businesses, and so the owners end up going in there to cover everybody and just get burnt out. So it's a common story right now.
Yeah, and that really is, knowing Andy and Mary so well, that has been such a big challenge. They mentioned in the Brandon Reporter article, I believe is where this quote was, which is a really good article as well. I'm sure most people saw the Addy India article, and John did a great job, and definitely were very appreciative of Angelo's words. But the Brandon Reporter article is another really good perspective, and what Stephen wrote there. But Andy mentioned that sort of one of the straws that broke the camel's back was their youngest daughter was sick, with a fever, one of those just bad childhood illnesses, and enough staff called out that both Andy and Mary ended up at the store, basically with their kid home sick, and that was the straw that broke their camel's back, because they couldn't be there for their kid because of the staffing challenges. So yeah, that's been such a big issue.
That's a shame. It truly is.
Yeah. Fingers crossed, though. I mean, that's the other thing, is that it is a shame. It is really sad. And, the Buxton's family, aside from when Doug owned it, basically owned it for, over 50 years. But what to me is hopeful is the idea that we could see a new day for this building, because having sort of talked with Andy and Mary over the years, one of the challenges, quite frankly, is that when you own an old general store, you own an old general store building. And while there are a number of grants to help people who maybe have nonprofits that own community buildings, there are very few for-profit businesses. And there's good reasons for that and everything like that. But when they own this building like they did, it's just been a really big challenge for them, dealing with deferred maintenance and stuff like that. And so I think part of our hope is if we're successful and we're able to use grant funds to do these things, we could offer the space at below market rate prices in order to allow for a business to be successful there that might have a lot harder time being successful if they also had to deal with, strange plumbing issues from 1930 and whatnot.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to bring up at this point?
Yeah, I'll bring up something, just a few things about Virgins. I think most people are aware that we have a major project going on downtown, Virgins Grand, which is an assisted living facility, as well as a part of it being a nursing home. It's about a $20 million project, one of the largest projects that Virgins has ever seen, actually, particularly in the downtown. And it's well underway. I was kind of surprised. I was talking with them, and they expect to open in February, and really well ahead of anything that we conceived of. But and the reason for that is that the walls and a lot of the structure was actually built off-site and brought in on a trailer, in trailers, I should say. And so the building went up very fast. So now they've pretty much closed in the building. They're working inside mostly. And it's moving along quite well. There is a website that is open so that people can start trying to get into the facility. I fully expect that it will fill right up because there is a demand for that kind of a facility. So that's that part. And right next to it is the city green, and the city got a grant to do over the electrical system in the city green, because underground there's a watering system, there's an electrical system. I mean, nobody knows that, but it's all there. And new lighting for the city green, and a lot of that work has been done. Things like there are shooting up lights under the major trees so that at night the trees are lit, and new lighting for walking through the park.
Better to have shooting up lights than shooting up other things.
That's true. And so that right now the city green is completely blocked off so that the grass can grow, because they've had to rip up most of the city green. But once that's done, they'll open it up, and that project is well underway and almost finished. So that's happening generally in Virginia.
Excellent. Thank you, Rennie.
Who the contractor was in that?
The electrical.
The builder? No, the builder on the
Cummings, which I understand it was really good to work with and talking with them.
It's good to hear. Anyone else have anything they want to report out on?
Sure, I will. Last week I got to go to the Hannaford Career Center and see their fab lab and machine shop. And they, I think a couple of years ago, they got a $500,000 grant, and it's finally being put to work. And I'll say they've gone in a perfect direction. I was extremely impressed by the change at the machine shop. It's filled with 3D printers, laser cutters, CNC machines, laptops with the right software on it, robotics curriculum. And it was extremely encouraging. It was like a 180-degree turn on that program. And I think it aligns really well with the needs of manufacturers in the area. So it's really, really exciting to see that work come through, and especially in the right direction. I think the decisions that were made, they have a new instructor too, and he's developing a new curriculum. And it was just very encouraging. For the past 5 years, it's sort of been an uphill battle. And looking at sort of the needs of other machine shops in the area, I was concerned that it wasn't the right pipeline. And now I don't have that concern. And it's just a matter of getting students there. So if you guys have any young students, literally as young as 5 years old, that might be interested in that sort of work, I think exposing them to what's going on there is a right move. So point them in that direction. So yeah, kudos to the Career Center. Nicole, I'm sure you're very deeply involved with that. So really nice work.
I agree. I went in for the open house, and I walked into that room. I was like, "Whoa, where'd all the old machines go?"
Yeah.
I was so excited
it
to
is
see
so
the
exciting.
flying drones around in there, and the instructor is so pumped up about the programs that they'll be offering. It's very impressive.
Yeah, it really is sort of the new manufacturing vibe where there's laptops everywhere. It's a bright room. It has open space to run robotic, remote controlled cars and planes and everything around. So it's really neat. And I think, Collins is going to benefit from that. All the local machine shops, like everyone, it's just a good spot to filter the kids that are interested in that. So good work.
Excellent. It's great to hear. Anyone else? We don't need an executive session. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn at this point.
So moved.
They're moved. And is there a second? Motion. Richard seconded it. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. All those opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Everybody. See you at the annual meeting.
Thank you.
Be sure to register.
So are we doing?
He's so efficient.